1899 Subshock by Antoine Eversham, Chapter 1, The Spectre of the Thames. The morning had dawned like any other, but the peculiar chill in the air felt like an omen, an unnatural disturbance rippling through the routines of Victorian London. From the depths of the River Thames, something extraordinary had surfaced. The USS Horizon, sleek and constructed from an unknown metal, glistened under the half-light of dawn. It was an aberration, a disruption in time itself. London's citizens gathered along the riverbanks, their expressions a mix of awe and dread. The Queen's advisors scrambled for answers, but none could explain the vessel that seemed to defy the very laws of existence. Aboard the submarine, Captain Sarah Conrad peered out at the historic city sprawling before her. Chimney-capped brick buildings, horse-drawn carriages clattering over cobblestone streets, fog-curtained alleys. It was Victorian London, unmistakably so. The contrast between her vessel's futuristic technology and the antiquity of the world outside was staggering. "Lieutenant Harris," Sarah said, her voice both a command and a plea for reassurance. "What's the status of our systems?" Harris tapped at the unresponsive displays, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Everything's down, Captain. No satellites sync, if satellites even exist in this time. We're operating on basic life support only." A lump formed in Sarah's throat. They weren't just lost at sea, they were lost in time. Yet amidst the chaos, she saw opportunity. If history had taught her anything, it was that in moments of uncertainty, alliances were paramount. Her mind raced through the names of London's finest minds. Lord Jonathan Esmond, an eccentric but brilliant inventor, stood out as a possible key to unraveling their predicament. Determined, Sarah turned her thoughts toward diplomacy. The Victorian era was not kind to women in power, and she was a woman out of time in more ways than one. Yet leadership had always been about navigating the impossible, and this was merely another impossible challenge to overcome. She had a crew to unite, an inventor to seek, and a world to convince that the USS Horizon was not a threat. And time, though fractured, was running out. Chapter 2. Into the Depths of Innovation. Sarah wasted no time. Venturing into the heart of London, she set out to find Lord Esmond, the one man she believed could help. The streets bustled with whispers of the strange vessel, and though some met her with suspicion, others offered cautious directions. Esmond's workshop, nestled within a maze of alleyways, was a sight to behold. It was a place where science teetered on the edge of magic, filled with blueprints, half-constructed contraptions, and the hum of perpetual invention. The moment Esmond laid eyes on Sarah, his mind ignited with possibilities. He saw in her a mystery that defied everything he knew about time and physics. "Welcome to the beginning of an analysis that will change everything," he declared, his excitement crackling like electricity in the air. Their conversation was a rapid-fire exchange of theories, calculations, and the tantalizing notion of time as something more than a linear path. Esmond, fascinated, was eager to help, but their mission would not be easy. Outside, London's streets pulsed with growing unrest. Some viewed the USS Horizon as an omen, others as an opportunity for power. Factions began to form, and danger loomed closer with each passing hour. Inside the workshop, Esmond and Sarah became an unlikely alliance. Their duo soon expanded into a trio when Ada, a gifted mathematician, joined their cause. Her sharp mind added depth to their theories, but even as their knowledge grew, so did the threats against them. Sarah knew time was a double-edged sword. If they were to return home, they had to move quickly. But as ambition and paranoia swept through London, the question remained, would they be allowed to leave it all? Chapter 3. Fortifying the Present, Guarding the Future. The whispers in London's streets had grown into a storm. The USS Horizon had become the center of speculation, and not all of it was innocent. Some saw it as a divine revelation, others as a weapon, and wherever power was suspected, there were those willing to take it. Sarah knew they had to act before opportunists did. She stationed a security detail at Esmond's workshop, submariners from her crew, trained in the technology and tactics of the 21st century. Dressed to blend in, they became unseen sentinels among the gaslit streets, watching for threats that lurked in the fog. Yet, diplomacy was just as crucial as defense. Sarah reached out to Parliament, requesting an audience to assure London's elite that the USS Horizon posed no threat. The Victorian era was an age of empire and control. The appearance of something inexplicable, something not under their dominion, was bound to rattle them. Standing before the gathered officials, Sarah spoke with the authority of a commander, but the finesse of a diplomat. "The USS Horizon is beyond your time," she said, "but not beyond your understanding. We seek not dominion, but cooperation. Not to alter history, but to ensure its continued course without disruption." Some remained skeptical, but her words held weight. The British Empire was built on calculated alliances, and Sarah's composure, her refusal to cower, intrigued them. The groundwork had been laid. Back at the workshop, the race against time continued. Esmond and Ada worked tirelessly, refining the designs for their time bridge, the device that could send the Horizon back where it belonged. Every calculation carried the weight of millennia of knowledge and the fate of an entire crew. But despite their precautions, dangers lurked. Greed had already begun its slow creep, and there were those who sought to claim the USS Horizon by force if necessary. As Sarah prepared for the final stage of their mission, she knew one thing for certain: the past was no safer than the future. Chapter 4: The Power Within and the Legacy Left Behind. The last obstacle stood not in theory but in physics. The USS Horizon's time bridge required an immense power source, far beyond what Victorian London could provide. Sarah convened her team inside Esmond's workshop, the room alight with blueprints, circuits, and equations. "We need to generate more power than this era is capable of producing," one of her engineers said grimly. The solution lay in the USS Horizon itself. "We divert everything," Sarah decided. "Life support, communications, every last watt of energy into the time bridge." It was a dangerous gamble. The submarine would be left vulnerable. No lights, no backup systems, no fail-safes. If they failed, they would be trapped in the past, unable to return. Esmond, ever the visionary, proposed a controlled sequence. "We can stage the transfer in waves, regulating the output to avoid catastrophic overload." Sarah nodded. "Then let's make history." As the final preparations were made, Sarah took a moment to leave a message for London. A letter, sealed and entrusted to the Times, to be printed after their departure. "To the people of London, your history is one of resilience, triumph, and human spirit. Let not our passage alter what you are destined to become. From where I stand in time, I affirm, your path is righteous and steadfast. Let insight pave inspiration, but leave change to the course of nature." Then, as dawn broke over the Thames, the USS Horizon prepared for departure. The streets of London watched in breathless silence as the impossible unfolded. The time bridge activated, shimmering like liquid light. The submarine pulsed, once, twice, then vanished beneath the waves, swallowed by time itself. Chapter 5: Ocean of Time and Echoes of Change. The USS Horizon emerged violently, the vessel jolting as though wrenched through the fabric of reality. Sarah's breath caught as she peered through the portholes. This was not the icy Atlantic from which they had originally traveled. Warm waters lapped against the submarine's hull. A coastline stretched in the distance, wild and unfamiliar. As the crew recalibrated their instruments, a sinking realization settled over them. They were not home. "Location check," Sarah ordered. Harris worked swiftly, then paled. "Ma'am, we're near Tasmania." The air in the control room thickened. Tasmania. The year? Unknown. Sarah's grip tightened on the console. They had jumped, but not far enough. They were still lost in time. Chapter 6: Navigating Stars, Signals, and Time. The USS Horizon floated on the warm waters off Tasmania, its sleek frame an anachronism in an unfamiliar era. Inside, tension simmered as the crew worked to determine their place in time. Sarah paced the control room. Their advanced instruments remained unresponsive. No satellite pings, no GPS, just empty static. "We'll have to navigate the old way," she said. With the night sky sprawling above them, they turned to celestial navigation. Using astrolabes and star charts, they mapped constellations, tracing the shifting positions of celestial bodies against what should have been their rightful night sky. It was a painstaking process, but it worked. Then a crackling noise filled the radio. A voice, grainy and distant, filtered through the speakers. The language was unmistakable. English. Sarah turned to Harris, who rapidly tuned the frequency. The words became clearer, more structured. It was a wartime radio transmission. The year was 1943. A ripple of unease passed through the crew. They were in the middle of World War II, a conflict more volatile and globally destructive than any before. Their arrival in this time posed an even greater risk than their presence in Victorian London. And then came another realization. They were not alone in these waters. Chapter 7. Across the enemy's gaze. Contact on the horizon. The warning came from the periscope operator. A Japanese destroyer had appeared in the distance, its silhouette unmistakable against the rising sun. It cut through the waves with purpose, a predator on patrol. For the first time since arriving in the past, the USS Horizon was in immediate danger. Inside the control room, the debate was instant and fierce. "We could sink them," one officer suggested. "With our weapons, they wouldn't stand a chance." Others disagreed. "We're not here to alter history. We can't risk changing the course of the war." Sarah exhaled slowly. This was a crucial moment, a decision that could alter the future itself. "We don't engage," she said firmly. "We slip away." The crew obeyed without hesitation. Power was rerouted to the time bridge. The USS Horizon hummed to life, the veil of time beginning to form around them once more. Through the periscope, Sarah watched as the Japanese destroyer moved ever closer, its crew oblivious to the fact that they had just brushed against a vessel from another era. Then, with a final pulse of light, the USS Horizon vanished. The war would continue as history intended. Chapter 8. Passage through shadows. Time stretched. The USS Horizon tumbled through the unseen corridors of history, the very essence of reality warping around them. Then, impact. The submarine lurched as it reappeared in an ocean shrouded in mystery. A cold, familiar current ran beneath the hull. Sarah steadied herself and turned toward the screens. "Where are we?" Harris scanned the instruments, and this time the data came alive. Signals flickered, sonar pings bounced back as expected. Then confirmation. They were home. The year? 2025. A collective breath of relief filled the control room. They had done it. They were back. And yet as Sarah looked toward the horizon, she knew something had changed. They had seen time for what it truly was. Fragile, fluid, and unknowable. And history would never know just how close it had come to being rewritten. Chapter 9. Horizons Yet to Come. As the USS Horizon cut through the waters of the present, its journey through time was now a secret buried in history, but echoes of their voyage remained. Far away in Victorian London, Lord Esmond's theories, inspired by his encounter with Sarah, laid the groundwork for scientific discoveries that would shape the world. His notes on energy manipulation and temporal mechanics would later inspire early research into radar technology, playing an unforeseen role in World War II. The ripples of their passage had spread, and in the modern day, Sarah Conrad stood on the deck of the USS Horizon, staring into the distance. They had defied time itself, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that time had not yet finished with them. With a quiet smile, she whispered to the horizon, "To horizons new." The end.